It was supposed to be a routine panel, another televised political commentary with sparks and speeches, where opinions often clashed but never truly burned. But this time, the fire was different. Jasmine Crockett, known for her unfiltered truth and fierce commitment to justice, sat poised across from conservative commentators on a popular Sunday night broadcast. As cameras rolled and millions tuned in, the conversation took an unexpected, explosive turn. It began subtly. A discussion around immigration policies under the Trump administration was already heating up, with Crockett highlighting the hypocrisy of policies that seemed to demonize immigrants while conveniently ignoring the immigrant status of people in Trump's own inner circle. Then it happened, calmly, surgically, and without blinking. Jasmine dropped the line that set off political shockwaves across America: "Let's not forget, Melania Trump is an immigrant. And frankly, her marriage looks more like a transactional visa deal than the American dream." Gasps rippled through the studio. For a second, even the host froze. The room fell into a deafening silence as everyone tried to process what had just been said. And then, as if on cue, the phones lit up, the tweets started flying, and within minutes, Donald Trump himself went on Truth Social in all caps: "Jasmine Crockett is a disgrace. How dare she attack the greatest First Lady ever? Jealousy is an ugly thing." But Crockett wasn't done. As the show resumed, she doubled down. The same man who wants to build walls and separate families has no problem when the immigrant is marrying into wealth and power. That's not about love, that's about leverage. And when someone benefits from a system while trying to shut the door on everyone else, we have to call that out. Trump, who was reportedly watching live from Mar-a-Lago, exploded behind the scenes. Sources close to him said he began shouting at aides, demanding immediate statements, pressuring allies in the media to go after Crockett, and even threatening lawsuits that would never hold in court. But the more he raged, the more attention Jasmine's words received. Clips of the moment began circulating online, going viral across TikTok, X, and YouTube. The youth applauded her courage. Immigrants from all walks of life began sharing their stories, using the hashtag #MelaniaMarriageGate. Late-night comedians jumped in, with one famously saying, "Trump wants to deport everyone except the one person who learned English from a pamphlet and married him for a green card." Back on Capitol Hill, the reaction was just as divided. Republican lawmakers rushed to Melania's defense, calling the comment an attack on women and disrespectful to the institution of marriage. But Democrats saw it differently. Jasmine said what everyone has been thinking but no one had the guts to say, one senator noted anonymously. "The selective outrage from the Trumps is exhausting." Melania's team released a brief statement, curt, deflective, and unusually defensive, calling the remarks salacious and beneath the dignity of discourse. But Crockett's supporters were quick to point out how silent Melania had been during some of the most harmful anti-immigrant rhetoric from her husband. And that silence became the heart of Jasmine's point. "It's not personal," she said in a follow-up interview. "It's about consistency. If you marry into privilege and power while millions of other immigrants are struggling under policies you won't even speak out against, you become complicit. Silence is not neutrality, it's permission." Her words struck a chord far deeper than Trump's angry outbursts could reach. Immigrant families, particularly women, saw in her commentary a challenge to a system that rewards the few and punishes the many. They didn't see it as an insult to Melania. They saw it as a reminder that dignity isn't something that should depend on who you marry, how much money you have, or which party you align with. It should be universal. As days passed, media frenzy intensified. Trump continued his tirade, calling Jasmine every name in the book, from radical to ungrateful, claiming she was trying to destroy the American family. But ironically, each insult only amplified her platform. Her bravery, her audacity to speak what others whispered behind closed doors, had shifted the narrative. Civil rights organizations began to rally behind her. Advocacy groups released statements praising her for holding power to account. Young activists played her clip at rallies, chanting slogans like, "Truth isn't hate," and "We all know why she married him." It was no longer about one line on one show, it had become a cultural reckoning. Trump, however, couldn't let it go. In another late-night online meltdown, he posted photos of him and Melania with captions like, "True love wins," attempting to reclaim the narrative. But by then, the damage was done. America wasn't buying the fairy tale anymore. They had seen too many lies, too much hypocrisy, and too many broken promises. And Jasmine? She stood firm. "If they think they can bully me into silence, they haven't been paying attention. I didn't come to Congress to bow to billionaires or play nice with liars. I came to speak the truth, and I'm just getting started." Her words became a rallying cry for those tired of two-faced politics, tired of systems built to serve the wealthy, tired of double standards. In a time where truth often takes a back seat to theatrics, Jasmine Crockett reminded the nation that sometimes, the most revolutionary thing you can do is speak plainly. And so, in that one moment, on that live broadcast, she didn't just call out a former First Lady. She called out a system. A system that rewards silence, punishes honesty, and turns immigration into a bargaining chip for the rich while leaving everyone else behind. And no matter how loud Trump screamed, America heard her. Lived in fear and shadows, who followed the rules, waited in lines, were denied, detained, deported, and told they were unworthy, while watching others skip the line with a designer handbag and a powerful husband. And so when Jasmine spoke, it wasn't disrespect, it was accountability, it wasn't gossip, it was confrontation with a system that smiles at some and scowls at others, a system where whiteness, beauty, and access can fast-track your dream while brown skin, accents, and poverty delay it. Indefinitely, and in speaking that truth, Jasmine didn't just start a conversation, she ignited a reckoning, and what Trump calls an attack is what millions call honesty, what he calls disrespect is what the powerless call vindication, because when politicians use immigrants as pawns but protect the ones in their own homes, the hypocrisy isn't just offensive. It's dangerous, and Jasmine forced the country to see that, to feel that, and no amount of angry tweets, media spin, or crocodile tears can undo the impact of a truth that powerful. And yes, the media exploded, commentators screamed, and political camps divided, but for many Americans, especially women, especially immigrants, especially truth seekers, Jasmine Crockett became something rare. A representative who refuses to sanitize the truth just to make the rich feel comfortable, a woman who understood that diplomacy without honesty is complicity, and she chose truth even when it meant backlash, even when it meant being targeted by the full force of Trump's ego, and that is what leadership looks like. Not polished statements or cowardly silence, but standing tall in the middle of a media firestorm and saying, "No, I won't play along with your fairy tale when it's built on the suffering of so many," and in that moment, Jasmine Crockett became a voice not just in Congress but in the culture, a symbol of how the rules are rigged and how truth still matters, because whether or not Melania loves Trump is irrelevant. The issue is how her story is used to sell a lie that says anyone can make it in America if they just try hard enough, when the reality is that millions try and still get shut out, caged, or crushed, and Crockett called that out in full view of the nation, exposing the uncomfortable truth that if Melania's name were Maria and she crossed the border with 2 kids and no money, Trump would call her a threat, not a first lady. And it's that double standard that Crockett laid bare, and while Trump rages, his words fall flat, because the truth Jasmine told can't be unsaid, can't be unheard, can't be undone. It echoes now in every immigrant story, every child in detention, every family torn apart, and every American waking up to the reality that freedom should never be reserved for the well-connected, and if speaking that truth makes someone go nuts, then maybe it's not the truth that's the problem. It's the system that made it necessary. Loud and clear. Let's not forget, Melania Trump is an immigrant, and if we're going to talk about immigration in America, we can't do it honestly while ignoring the glaring contradictions standing right in front of us, because when someone like Melania can marry into power and wealth and ascend to the highest levels of American influence without ever fully addressing the struggles of immigrants who look different, speak differently, or come from less privileged circumstances, then we have a problem not just of policy but of morality. And Jasmine Crockett, with a voice soaked in both justice and unapologetic truth, shattered the carefully constructed image of immunity the Trumps had built around Melania's past, because this wasn't just about Melania being foreign-born, it was about the selective empathy and double standards that fuel the very foundation of Trumpism, where immigrants are vilified unless they're beautiful, European, and strategically married, and while Trump foams at the mouth on television and social media over border walls and so-called invaders, he says nothing of the quiet deal-making that occurs when immigration is used as a ladder by the privileged, and Jasmine's words expose that hypocrisy not with cruelty but with courage, challenging a nation to ask itself how it treats the vulnerable versus how it protects the convenient, because for years the right wing has weaponized fear, painting immigrants as criminals, rapists, job stealers, and threats, and yet, when Melania entered the country, worked illegally as a model, and eventually secured her status through a marriage to a billionaire, not only was she protected, she was celebrated, held up as some kind of American success story, but success for whom, and at what cost? Because the real question Jasmine Crockett asked with her bold remark was not whether Melania deserved to be here, but why the same pathway she walked is denied to thousands who are fleeing violence, poverty, and persecution. And Trump's outrage wasn't about defending his wife's dignity. It was about defending his illusion, the fragile fantasy he sells to his base where everything about his life is heroic and everyone who questions it is an enemy. And yet, in the face of all his bluster, Jasmine didn't back down, didn't stutter, didn't retreat, because her truth was heavier than his lies, and the American people recognized it in real time, because when she said what she said, it wasn't just a clapback or a headline. It was a mirror, a reflection of a truth we've been conditioned to ignore, and that's why it hit so hard, because it wasn't new, it was just loud and finally public, and people could no longer pretend not to see it. And yes, Trump went wild, ranting, threatening lawsuits, throwing tantrums, demanding apologies that would never come, and his followers parroted his rage with hashtags and fury. But Jasmine's courage sent ripples through communities across the country, especially among immigrants who have